Okay, hello. So my debate was, can positive psychology make us happier? And I was in the group for the yes position. So, what is positive psychology? Positive psychology is basically defined in many different ways. It is the study of topics as diverse as happiness, optimism, subjective well-being, psychological well-being, social well-being, personal growth, and strength. Also, flow, wisdom, creativity, imagination, and other characteristics of positive groups and institutions. So, really, it's everything that you can define as positive in the form of basically any type of therapy or psychology. So, other people have defined it as being used to conduct scientific inquiry into the factors that help individuals, communities, and organizations thrive by building their strengths and virtues. Basically, aims to expand the field from its focus on repairing the negatives in life to also promoting the positives in life. Basically, the overarching goal of positive psychology, if you would have to define it, would be you don't want to just focus on your negative aspects when you're trying to make yourself a better person, but you also want to focus on your positive aspects and making them better and making yourself better by bettering those aspects themselves. So, who created it? Martin Selman created positive psychology in 1998 in an effort to basically step away from psychology being used simply to treat the negative things that affect people. And instead, he wanted to use them to help people become happier by fortifying the positive virtues they may already have. He basically states that psychology is not just the study of disease, weakness, and damage, but it is also the study of strength and virtue. Positive psychology can really be used in many different groups and many different situations. For example, in depressed middle-aged adults and seniors, or even young schoolgoers who are just barely starting their lives. Sorry. And it can help people not just with mental disabilities, but also those without disabilities. In general, the goal is to basically, like I said, better ourselves by thinking positively. Simply put, instead of trying to find out what is wrong with us, we should focus on what is trying to find out what is. We should focus on trying to find what is right with us and do it more. Some examples of positive psychology and how they actually are beneficial. So, the first one is a study titled Effective Positive Psychotherapy on Psychological Well-Being, Happiness, Life Expectancy, and Depression Among Retired Teachers with Depression. This is by Ali Tavania and Naid El-Madari. So it's basically was a study to determine the effect of positive psychology in relation to well-being, happiness, life expectancy, and depression in retired school teachers. It consisted of about 60 female teachers, aged 55 to 80 years old, and they were basically tested and they obtained the lowest scores in the Beck Depression Inventory scale. So they were divided into two groups, one experimental group and one group that received no treatment at all. They were tested when they first entered, and they were tested 2 months after they had employed these tactics that they were basically shown. The results were incredibly positive. They were essentially stating that positive psychology could be used to effectively treat and increase the level of PWB, or psychological well-being, happiness, life expectancy, and also reduce depression. Basically, put simply, it really helped. The teachers reported feeling happier, feeling better. Their life expectancy increased. That one was a hard one to test, but they felt like they would perhaps be better off, or they would get more years off their life by not being depressed or upset, or just in a bad state of mind. Not only that, but the study also expanded into seniors, not just middle-aged adults, and it showed promising results in them. These results were basically even more promising because they weren't just temporary, they were shown to last well into later on into these teachers' lives. Another study done was by Usha Tiwari Updike, and basically the goal of her study was to see whether positive psychology implemented in school-going children with specific learning and disabilities would lead to increased subjective well-being. Basically, she wanted to see if there would be improved academic self-concept and academic achievement in these students. Her study consisted of one group of pre- and post-test design of 75 children with learning disabilities. Basically, 61 boys and 14 girls from 3 schools in India. And they would all receive a weekly session for about 12 sessions that would teach them techniques such as integrating gratitude, mindfulness, and attributional style. The results were incredibly positive, and not only that, but there were improvements in happiness and academic self-concept, but also in academic achievement. The academic achievement one was kind of seen as a risky one because they didn't think positive psychology would actually benefit on paper. It would only benefit their subjective well-being, but it showed that it also increased their overall doing in school. She finishes by basically saying that she hopes that this research can not only be for students with learning disabilities, but also students without learning disabilities. So, in conclusion, there are some arguments against it, basically saying that there should be more attention to the gap put between happiness as an overall satisfaction and specific gratifications or enjoyments. Basically, scientists are worried that there is not going to be able to be a line drawn between overall actual happiness being tested and specific happiness relating to the people being tested. There's also fears that some scientists might not be doing science, but instead they might be using this as an excuse to use some sort of combination of science and normative ethics, which should be seen completely separate in this field. I think that these fears could be quelled simply by putting more care on the exact definitions placed around the happiness relating to each study. So clearly defining happiness as it relates to who is being studied and how they're being studied. In general, positive psychology has been proven to be incredibly effective in helping people become happier, more in tune with their goals, their positive characteristics, and overall in becoming better versions of themselves. While the idea of fixing negative traits should not be completely thrown out, we should also focus on the idea that we can better ourselves by putting more emphasis on the traits that are good. Thank you.